this online relationship had its own special qualities that, in my opinion, can't be reached in a physical relationship. And physical relationship have its own very special qualities. We can get just different things out of these different relationships. We can have different kind of intimacies. And why won't we want to explore these two kinds of intimacies if we can?
Hi, my name is Eran Dror, and this is Remake, a podcast about design, systems, and society. In each episode, I talk to someone who's trying to change our lives for the better in some meaningful way, whether through a new product, new venture, or new way of looking at the world. And I try to understand how they came to it, what makes them tick, and what we can learn from them. Today I'm speaking with Maya Magnat. Maya is a performance artist, an educator, and an advocate of inti-tech, or intimate technology. We discuss how her performance, art, education, and advocacy fit together. And also her hopes for Intimake, a group she's founded that's made of makers, hackers, and designers dedicated to improving human sex and intimacy through technology.
I was going to ask, what is something you believed since childhood that still drives you today?
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think about that still drives me today.
Yeah. Something that is still meaningful and kind of active in your life today.
I think it's kind of embarrassing to say, but it does drive me. So I always wanted to be special and unique. And it was kind of something that also the society around me and my parents kind of showed me that it's an important thing to be special. So just being creative and doing what you want, right, and really choosing what you want to do and going with it. So it has like good and bad things inside, I think, because the bad things is that you will maybe try to be special on account of doing what you really want. And the good things are being authentic to yourself and going with what you want, even though people around you don't really accept it, things like that.
Cool. So you said that this came from your parents and your surrounding. How did it come about? How did it kind of manifest in your childhood?
So I grew up in Tel Aviv, where everyone's special. And I think also it's something that our generation kind of was taught when we were kids,
right,
that we are all special and that we are all wonderful and so smart and we're 100% good, and which of course is not really true. And then when we got older, we had this crisis when we understood that it's not really the case. Like, I'm not the most talented person in the world, and I'm not the most amazing person in the world. So took its toll, I think, on the millennial generation.
So there's a whole generation that thinks they're special, and they're like they get a big shock when they go out into the world.
Yeah. And then you need to see how do you deal with it.
Right. And so how did you deal with it?
I found my own very weird niche.
Okay.
So I'm not really contesting about anything with anyone. And also always trying to tell myself that, no, I'm not the best in everything. I'm the best in several things, or one of the best, or not even the best, and trying to convince myself that it's okay.
Right. Well, that sounds like a good path. But it's interesting because by wanting to be individual, you kind of find a field that's very special.
Yeah.
And then you're almost, no matter what you do in this field, you're going to be pretty special.
Exactly. That's my plan.
Cool. Well, it's a good plan. So how do you think? So you do a lot of things. You're an actress. You're an academic. And you have these groups that you're organizing. So how do you think? How do you define your work today? How do you think about it?
So I'm a performance artist, a digital performance artist. And so I do artwork and projects, and I also working on my MA. Well, not yet, but I will hopefully in tech and education. And other than that, I'm leading a group called Intimake that I'm sure we'll talk about later. So I'm not really defining myself. I'm just trying to do everything. So I see myself as an artist, as an educator, and I don't know, maybe an activist in some way, sex educator. So I'm just trying to do everything. And in my opinion, it also, everything comes together. All the things that I do are really connected to each other, though it doesn't seem like that maybe.
I feel like it does come together, but I'm wondering how would you describe it coming together? Where is the meeting point of all these things?
So the three fields that I'm dealing with are art, education, and technology.
Right.
They come together in all this. I'm dealing with the subject of technology and intimacy, and technology and sexuality,
right,
and art and technology. So in my art, I'm dealing with technology and intimacy. In intimacy field, I deal with education and technology.
Right.
In education, I deal with art and I deal with intimacy and in technology.
Right.
So everything's connected in a way.
So it's like creatively teaching people to have better intimacy.
Or creatively creating art where you use technology to become closer to each other.
Huh. Interesting. And so I've seen 2 of your shows, and I thought they were great, but they were very specific. So can you tell us a little bit about these shows and how they came about and what makes them special?
So one of the shows I think you're referring to, I Don't Want to See This.
Right.
So I Don't Want to See This is a lecture performance. For the outsider, it will look like a normal lecture.
Right.
In which I teach the audience how to be content moderators in Facebook.
Right.
And the show is based on the Facebook presentations where, like, the actual materials they teach their content moderators.
Right.
So we used it where we created the show. And during the show, it gradually becomes more, I don't know, like sincere, creepier. It starts in a funny way, but then gradually dealing with very dark subjects and it's also an interactive piece. So we're asking the audience, the participants, to participate and choose and try to actually experience what it means to be a content moderator.
Right.
And what it means to have these dilemmas. Will I have to delete something? I have to leave it on? What do I have to do? And think about could there be better rules? What would I want to have or not have on Facebook? So it's an interactive digital performance piece, I guess.
Yep. Cool. And I think the other show was Matay Nitmamshek in Hebrew.
Okay, so it's interfacing.
Okay.
It's interesting because these 2 are the most, I think, theatrical works that I did. So I normally do these one-on-one interactive pieces where I sit with the person beside me and we do something together. So these 2 are actually I'm the performer and there's an audience and I'm doing something for them.
Right.
So in interfacing, it's I define it as a love story between a woman and the technology surrounding her. So I'm playing this woman, like I'm playing myself, and we are gradually, we start as co-workers and gradually become like lovers, and it becomes a sexual relationship. And in the end, we are combining to form this third entity, human tech person. Yeah, so it's a love story.
Right. There's definitely there's a lot of sexuality in that show, but it's very funny, and it makes you think, because it's all about, kind of the boundaries between us and technology. Or so, what made you interested in those specific? Because it's a very specific field of interest. Not a lot of people are dealing with it, so partly maybe that's why. But what drew you to that?
I think there are a couple of reasons. One is very simple. It's because it seems like they're not supposed to go together.
Right.
When you think about technology, you think about, I don't know, like very cold, blue-white surfaces, like cold interaction. When you think about sexuality, you think about warmth, you think about touch.
Right.
And we normally don't see these two things together.
Right.
So as an artist, it's more interesting for me to try to combine them and see what comes out of it. And the second reason is that my own personal experiences using technology were like I created intimate connections, and I created sexual connections using technology. So in my opinion, these two go together very well.
Right.
So I wanted to reflect that, and I wanted to show that these two fields are not as they're closer than we think they are.
Right. So we were talking about sexuality and intimacy go hand in hand with technology, and I definitely understand that, because I'm also using technology to have these connections. And just the other day, someone wrote to me on Facebook, like saying, "Hey, I saw your post. I like your post. I want to get to know you." Right. And so it does foster connections.
Mm-hmm.
But also there's an article came out recently. I forget where it was, but I shared it on Facebook. It's about intimacy and connection becoming a luxury. Mm-hmm. So people who are not very clever maybe about how they use technology, or maybe they can't afford the better kinds of technology, are left behind, and they're left in a world where they're kind of isolated. Maybe they don't have time. So what do you think about the kind of, is there a dark side to technology versus a bright side? How do you see that division?
There's a dark side for sure, and we always need to remember that. I think that in the past, there were certain kind of people that technology really helped to form connections. Like people that can write and read better, and maybe people that in first meetings, they don't look that well. They can't come up as well as in writing.
Right.
So when you got to know someone based on how they write, they had a chance.
Right.
But now gradually we are depending more and more on pictures again.
Right.
Right? In Tinder,
right,
we don't read whatever this person is writing. Like at first we look at their pictures.
Look at their Instagram.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it doesn't matter as much as it did in the past. But when we talk about like finance, when you talk about money, I could imagine a future where you'd have better matches if you pay more. I'm sure that it happens, that it's like this now also.
Yeah.
So I can imagine a future where it becomes even more dependent on how much you pay.
Right, commercial.
Yeah.
From my perspective, online dating is already fully there. So it's if you're not paying for online dating, then you are used to make other people pay. And they actually, it's almost, there are apps that almost guarantee that you won't find the person you like, because if they like you or you like them, then you're behind the paywall.
Yeah. Yeah. And I heard a really good talk about it. that was about how these companies don't really have an interest to help you find your true soulmate or whatever they advertise they're going to do. They want to leave you there. So they will give you the next to best matches.
Right.
Because they don't want you to leave the site. They want you to go on several dates and then come back, or have a very short relationship so you'll feel good that you had a chance and then come back to the app.
Yep.
Which is just, it blows your mind when you think about that.
Yeah, it's so cruel. It's so cruel. And I think that's true. I've definitely had many, many experiences of getting like the almosts, even though then later I would find that someone that I really liked was also there, but I would never match with them. But I have empirical information. I've designed dating apps. I had empirical information. I now know for a fact, if two people are not paying and they match, at least on one app, they're guaranteed to not see each other.
Wow.
Until one of them pays.
So that's crazy.
Yeah.
And I feel like it wasn't like that.
Yep.
Like 5 years ago, it wasn't like that. Things are changing so fast in this field.
I think that's definitely true. I think so. Not to go too deep into online dating. So tell me about Intimake. So Intimake is this group that we're both involved in that you started. Tell me what it is in your.
So Intimake is a community, like tech people, designers, and sexual educators and sexual therapists that want to use technology to create intimacy. It's people who believe that technology can be a tool to help us become closer to each other, and they want to learn how to use it. And we try to be a place for people to talk about these subjects, to write about their ideas, to maybe find partners that want to work with them on projects. And we do meetups, and we try to do it every month, and workshops, and try to teach people about this subject of sex tech, or what I called inti-tech, intimacy and technology. Here in Israel.
Cool. And can you give us a few examples of activities that you've done?
Yeah. So in the last few months, we had lectures about love in the digital age. Cool. We had a workshop, a 3D printing workshop, and we met with Milbat, which is a organization that helps people with disabilities, that builds using technologies to help people with disabilities. And we talked about how can we in Intimake use technology to help people with their sexual needs. And now we're going to have a party for our 1 year anniversary.
Nice. And we'll get the details at the end. Though I kind of doubt that this will come out before the party at the rate at which I'm editing these. But cool. So you said the beliefs are that kind of drive Intimake. It's that technology could bring us closer together, right? Probably that it also should.
Yeah.
And then that there's something we can do together to do it better. So how do you think about the third part of getting better at intimacy? What does that mean? What does it look like?
I think that, well, first of all, it's communication. I think there's different ways to answer this question. What do I think we can do using technology to help us get closer together? Or what do I think in general that will help us as a sexual educator? So as a sexual educator, I think that communication is the best way. And also knowledge, like helping people, teaching people, and telling them about things that they don't know yet about themselves, about their partners, about how to or why they should talk more about themselves and their feelings and the other thing is that what we try to do is actually create solutions to problems that people have, and not creating another fancy vibrator,
Right.
but creating an actual tool that will help someone experience something that he hasn't felt before,
Right.
or helping someone that can't have sex, or that
Right.
experiences pain, or that it feels very lonely. So help people that actually need help to improve their intimate and sexual lives.
Right. And I remember one of the data points from the Milbat collaboration was one of the hardest things for people with disabilities to do is actually just put on a condom.
Yeah.
Right. And then the group went into like research mode.
Yeah.
And what did you find? You found some cool solutions.
So yes, Madao actually found something that called Wingman.
Wingman. Okay.
Yeah. That it's a condom that comes with a plier
Right.
attached
Applicator
to it.
or whatever, what to call it.
Applicator attached to it.
Right.
So you open the bag and there is an applicator, and it's a small plastic piece that you can use to put it on.
Right.
And then you don't have to open it up and roll it and try to. So that's a really, really good thing, but it's not enough for people that actually have problems and can't move their hands as much.
Right.
So we don't have a solution, a better solution for now.
Right.
But even finding this thing and seeing that someone had been thinking about it was also really...
Yeah. And that was a good thing to find out anyway, because I hate putting condoms on it. They're so tough.
Yeah, everyone.
And it's so time consuming and distracting. You could lose your whole mood. But I find, it's that type of thinking where, you have some smart people doing some research, doing some design. And sometimes when we have makers in the group, we have people who can actually manufacture these things, could really help a lot of people very, very easily. When we're talking about intimacy, do you have a working definition of what is intimacy and kind of...
Yeah.
Okay.
So, intimacy is a process of getting to know each other during time and revealing things about yourself, but also receiving personal things from the other person and like hearing them and really understanding them. So it's not only about telling things about yourself or revealing parts of yourself, but also accepting these parts from the other person.
So it's not projecting, it's projecting and receiving at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it's also a process. It's something that takes time. It's something that you sometimes need to work on, but it's getting to know the more, they say intimacy is into me, you see.
Yes. Into me, see. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not just into me, you see. It's also I see into you.
Yeah.
So it's a mutual thing, where you learn about also not the only good things about the person.
Right.
You learn about the bad things about them, about their fears, about their hardships, and this is what it means to being really close to someone.
Yeah, it's interesting. I find I was living in the U.S. for a while, and to me, the difference between Israeli culture and American culture is how long it takes you to see the negative side from someone. Like in Israel, you could sit with someone and 5 minutes later, they're talking about their divorce and how everything is falling apart, and their dog is sick, or and with someone from America, it could take with my best American friends, it would take like 3 months of just hanging out before they would tell me anything vulnerable. Yeah. And so I feel like Israel is actually a more intimate culture. Mm-hmm. How do you see that? Do you have an experience with different... Are there cultures that are worse off?
I don't have I don't know people from other culture well enough to say. I can only say what I heard.
Yeah.
but that other cultures are maybe not as open.
Yeah.
Not as also talking about the bad things really, really fast. But the question is whether opening up about things quickly doesn't mean that you're intimate with someone.
Right.
It means that you're throwing your shit over the person.
For sure.
So
there's plenty of that too in Israel. I remember I was in a taxi ride during a vacation from America, from New York, and I had a girlfriend. The cab driver was like, "How old are you?" And I told him, and he was like, "Are you married? Do you have children?" I was like, "No." And he was like, knock her up. And it was like, you don't know her. Like, you don't know how we're doing. Like, she happens to, like, at the time I was dating a doctor in, residency. Like, she wouldn't appreciate it. And he was like, it doesn't matter. Kids are the best thing for you. It was just basically...
very, very Israeli.
Very Israeli. So, I mean, but in both the good and bad ways, I guess. Like, it's very in your face, but he wasn't really seeing me. He was mostly seeing himself in that moment. And
exactly.
Throwing his advice.
So it's not intimacy. It's the opposite of being intimate.
Yeah.
It's just saying what I want in that moment, not listening to the other person.
Right.
It's not a gradual something that grows on both of you. It's something that one side makes the other side listen.
Yeah. Well, we didn't have time because it was a 40-minute ride. So. So I feel like. So the seeing thing, it reminds me of Eric Fromm, which is one of my favorite authors, and he's talking about love as two people being completely together and also completely themselves at the same time. I find that interesting. So it's like, is there a line between intimacy and sexuality and just like love and like kind of friendship?
I want to say something else before because you said that, and then I thought about Sherry Turkle and her definition.
Okay,
so,
I don't know.
So Sherry Turkle is a psychotherapist that deals with technology and people in general, like how technology affects our lives, and she's been doing it for since the 80s. And she says that when we use technology to connect with someone, the experience created is of alone together. That we feel at the same time that we're with someone and we're very connected to each other, but at the same time we could be sitting alone at home.
Right.
And this feeling is very weird. It's very puzzling for us because we feel that we are really connected to someone, but not connected at the same time. Yeah. So I kind of thought about it when you said like being together but separate.
Right.
So you can say it's the definition of good love in a way.
Right. Right, but it's to being together and being totally yourself, not by yourself, but being yourself.
Yeah.
But yeah, I it's interesting to have so many thoughts about like alone together, because that's actually a thing in design. So I do design sprints, and in design sprints, there's this principle of alone together, which means we're all sitting together in the same room, but we're each drawing out our own ideas.
Yeah.
And then we come together to discuss them, right? Yeah. And so it could be good. I guess playing with these boundaries of alone and together is really interesting.
And I remember when memes just started, when I saw this meme of alone together, like a lot of crying faces standing together, and everyone's alone, everyone's crying, but they are still on the same side. And I really felt a strong feeling towards that meme.
Wow, I don't think I've seen that meme.
Yeah, it's rage faces. When rage faces was the thing.
Okay.
You can look it up.
Okay. Rage face meme. I'm gonna look it up.
And I saw this meme and I felt like this is me.
Wow.
I'm this person among other people, and I feel like I'm a part of this global community.
Right.
This internet online place where I don't know anyone, but I still share the same jokes and I still share the same feelings toward things, especially
Right.
being a geek. I think it's a feeling that we all know.
Yeah. We feel like we're alone together in the sense that we're alone in our immediate environment,
exactly.
but together because we are all geeks and we have our forums or
Exactly.
whatever.
And this is why the internet is such a good place for geeks.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess so. I mean, I feel like, in the best cases, I feel like online culture actually then brings you together in real life when that's possible. And so I've already, I've met people online that I became friends with in real life many times now. It's not even, 10 years ago, that would have been a special statement.
But
now it's just
not.
like, it's not even, of course you have.
But I think it's also important to mention that creating online friendships and creating online relationships that won't get into anything physical is also a really special thing.
Okay.
Like if you had the chance of experience this kind of relationship, like friendship or romantic relationship, then maybe you know that it comes with special intimacy. Like digital intimacy is not the same as physical intimacy. And all the time people are trying to say that physical intimacy is better. And digital intimacy it's not worth as physical one.
Okay.
One of the things I'm trying to say that we don't have to compare the two.
So that's interesting. I want to go deeper there because many years ago, I fell in love with a girl purely on instant messenger. Or I don't even remember the chat tool, but on chat, textual chat.
ICQ.
It was later than ICQ. But we have this long, intense, like months-long relationship where basically, we talked throughout the day, and we got to when we told each other our biggest secrets, and we were like super, it's like best friends for 3 months. And then I had the opportunity to actually meet her. I actually liked her, but she didn't like me as much. And it kind of felt less real after that. And also like, because for me, the purpose was to graduate into a real life relationship. And for her, I think she wasn't really thinking about it, or maybe was even thinking, I'll continue dating like real people in my neighborhood. This guy lives like hours away, so I'm not going to have to worry about him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of made me angry at the time. So what's your take on that? Like, is there really no hierarchy? Is there no, like, is it not, giving all other things being equal, is it not better to graduate into a real relationship? If real is too judgmental.
Physical.
A physical relationship?
I think it depends on what you want. Like for you, obviously it was, but for her it wasn't.
Right.
So she got everything she wanted out of your virtual relationship, I think, maybe. And also when we go through from a virtual relationship to a physical one, it's a test. And if we go through this test and if we pass this test, then we can go on to have this physical relationship.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that we can't fall in love and we can't have actual feelings toward the person in a virtual plane. But then there's when you were in this virtual connection, how did you feel? How did it made you feel?
Well, I guess it made me feel good, but also then, she kind of wanted to continue this online relationship, but also go on dates and sleep with other guys. And for me, that was like, no, that's too intense. Like, I'm talking to you like 5 times a day or 10 times a day. Like, we're always talking. We're like deeply cognitively connected, and this energy is not worth it for me.
Okay, but you said something about being cognitively connected.
Right.
So this is a unique feeling.
I guess. But I come to it after having the same thing with someone, but that also had the physical component, right? I had a longtime girlfriend by then, and I was just recovering actually from that breakup. and I wanted both, like very, very specifically both, right? And so I meet this girl, and she has all this great stuff, in text, but then there's the physical stuff never happened. So is it? I'm not going to ask if it's wrong to want both, because clearly it's not wrong to want both. But is it ever really true that you can be fully satisfied with just one and just be like, yeah, I'm never,
Yeah, for sure.
You think so?
Yeah. It's like, people have all kinds of relationships. If a person is fulfilled by only chatting with someone, you had a really intense relationship with that person.
Right.
So maybe someone's really into that and doesn't need anything else, which is fine.
Okay.
If it's what they want.
Yeah.
It wasn't the case in your story.
Right.
But what I was trying to say, that this online relationship had its own special qualities.
Yeah.
That, in my opinion, can't be reached in a physical relationship. And physical relationship have its own very special qualities. So we can get just different things out of these different relationships. We can have different kind of intimacies. And why won't we want to explore these two kinds of intimacies if we can?
So what kind of benefits or features can you find in like an online only, let's say, relationship that you can't find in a physical relationship? Is there such a thing?
I think that you can find a different kind of connection because, the strangers on a train.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you get to know someone just from reading what they say and just from talking and maybe not even seeing their face,
right,
then you can get into a very open kind of relationship very early.
Right.
And very honest, maybe. Of course, it doesn't always have to be like that, but it could happen.
Yeah.
And also, you'll have maybe other sexual experiences,
yeah,
text-based or online-based ones.
Yeah.
And you were also always together in a way, unlike your physical partner that you're going to work and then you're maybe not seeing till the rest of the day, but you'll have someone in your pocket that is always there with you.
Interesting.
And you'll, in a way, you don't feel alone because this person is always there for you.
There's another mind that you can always have at your side.
Yeah. And it's a very powerful feeling.
Yeah.
My best friend, been traveling the world, being a digital nomad for 7 years.
Wow.
And we stayed best friends because she was always there in my pocket. And
Incredible.
We would just text during the day and write and chat with each other. And she knows everything. Like, she's here right now, but she knew everything about my life and I knew everything about her life. And
wow.
I had this, they call it like a safety net. You have this online safety net of friends.
Yeah.
Helping you go through the day.
I think that's wonderful. It was AOL Messenger. I just remembered. And it was, I just remembered that shortly after that relationship, I got into another sort of online relationship with another girl. And this time I was the one who didn't want to have a physical part.
Yeah.
And she got really upset at that. She was disappointed.
Yeah.
So is there...
I got catfished.
You got catfished?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
I met a girl and I haven't seen her picture. I haven't seen anything about her.
Okay.
And we started chatting. It was a really intense kind of relationship for 2 weeks. And then after 2 weeks, we said that we're going to do a video chat for the first time. Haven't seen her picture.
Okay.
I'm
scared now. I'm super scared. Okay.
So I go on this video chat and I see her screen is like brown.
Okay.
So the technique in catfishing, like one of the techniques, is just covering the camera with your hand.
Okay.
And not showing yourself. and saying, oh, my camera is broken, I can't show myself, but yeah, let's talk.
Right.
And I knew this technique from before because I had these kind of experiences.
Oh, no.
And then I got suspicious. And I said, I stopped everything. And I said, okay, I'm not going to continue this talk until you send me a picture of yourself with like today's date.
Wow.
And then she started, no, I can't do this because lies.
Right.
Lies. And she just didn't. And she disappeared.
Did you ever find out who it was?
No, I didn't know her real name. I didn't know anything about her.
Wow.
And of course, it was after I told her everything about me. She knew everything. I told her secrets. I told her a lot of, very personal things about myself.
Right.
After that, first of all, I was very, I don't know. Was she a guy?
Right.
Maybe. Was she just not feeling good about herself? Was she married? I don't know what the story was.
Yeah.
But I felt two very strong emotions afterwards.
Right.
On one hand, I was like, okay, I don't care who this girl was. We had a very strong experience together.
Right.
And I learned things. I've changed in a way because of our short relationship. So I still have these things that I'll carry on with me.
Right. So she said things of substance. She had something specific to contribute. It wasn't just trying to make you like her.
No. It was actually. It was I got to know her and her day and everything that happened in her fake life. I don't know. And she knew everything about me.
Wow.
And on the other hand, I was very hurt and felt betrayed. So
she could be from a very religious family or from who knows?
Yeah, we don't know.
Wow. I'm trying to think. I don't think I've had a similar experience. This would be scary to me. The worst case is maybe it's someone you know. Maybe it's someone who has a crush on you that never told you.
Maybe. But, a little chance, but maybe.
Yeah, hopefully not. Hopefully not. So this chance, this opportunity for catfishing, on one hand, it's kind of liberating that you could have a relationship where you can sort of not put yourself at risk and kind of be safe. At the same time, there's these stories about ISIS recruiting, and it also happened in the same way. Some guy kind of reaches out to you about some post, and then they develop this very deep relationship with you, get to know you super, super well, become your best friends online. Yeah. But they're actually some guy sitting in the desert in a headquarters for ISIS.
Or people that are finding, young girls to make them live chat models and things like that.
Right. Wow. Yeah, I don't know anything about that, but that's the aspect that I find scary. It's because my tendency is also to open up pretty quickly, but I kind of have defenses. I definitely have to speak on the phone very quickly. I can't get into a forever chat vortex.
Yeah.
But I find it really cool, this really cool perspective of hey, you could have just an online safety network, and you could have someone who's deeply involved in your life that's not here, right?
Yeah.
Though I think it's very important that none of the sides really kind of is hoping for something else, because then it gets really hard.
Yeah, sure.
Which is the same, I guess, with any kind of friendship, right? If one of the sides wants more, it's the same complication. Mm-hmm. So what are so we have a party coming up soon for Intimake. Tell me about your plans for the future, for world domination.
Ooh, our plans for the future, I think, is just talking more and helping people to just get to know us and our ideas, because I think that if you create a space or a frame, then people will want to get in this frame more.
Right.
If you create a place where people can talk about intimacy and technology, then people will talk about it more.
Right.
Because before they didn't have the place to talk about it.
That's right.
So just giving more talks and trying to get this thing known. I think the next step is trying to make actual projects. Right. That we can say, this is a project that we made here.
Right.
in Intimake. This is an Intimake project.
Right.
So if we have more and more things like that, then I feel that people will start to understand what we're up for.
Cool. It's interesting to think of the group itself as a kind of technological product that brings people together and makes them closer.
Yeah.
Because
Well, it's a Facebook group.
Yeah,
basically.
Right. It's a Facebook group that has a real life component, but it's kind of more optional. Some people just stay online.
Yeah, most of them.
Right. But it also kind of, the kind of openness that people feel free to explore these topics that are pretty taboo everywhere else.
Yeah.
Pretty openly. And I think that is like people also talk about their own experience sometimes in a way that you wouldn't do in almost any other circumstance. So you are bringing people together just by having this group.
I hope so.
You are building intimacy.
We had a lot of talks about this subject when we just started this group, and about what kind of, because we didn't want people to go on the page and just writing things about their sexual experiences, and we wanted to be a safe place,
right,
and not a place to talk about sexuality, which is very, very important, but not this specific group.
Right.
Because it's not a place to talk about your problems, and it's not a place to talk about your experiences,
right,
if it's not connected to the subject.
Right.
So it's something that we were really worried about at first, that people will, be too open or try to talk about this subject.
Right.
And now we're just trying to, it didn't happen as much, or not at all.
Yeah.
And we're really trying to keep this place safe and keep this place, free in a way, but also guard everyone that's on this group.
Right. So it doesn't get too offensive. I feel like in Israel, we might have the opposite problem, because in Israel, everyone is 2 steps removed from your mother. So there's people are more likely to be guarded because you know someone who knows my mother, for sure.
This is why some people don't want other people to know that they're on this group.
Right.
There are people that work in high tech. There are people that work in certain companies that don't want their friends to know that they're interested in sexuality and technology. And they want their friends to know that they're into building these stuffs, or they're talking about these subjects. So some people feel ashamed about this.
Yeah.
And still.
Yeah. No, I can understand that. I said this before. I think this is more of an engineer and business person type of sensibility. Mm-hmm. Whereas I think designers would in general be much more open to something like this, because they're all kind of crazy humanistic types that free spirits. It's true.
Sure, the sexual therapists and the sex educators don't have any problems.
Yeah. Evidently. So it's if you could imagine where you want to be with this group in 2 years, kind of the most optimistic scenario for this. By the way, this is actually a design sprint question.
Oh, cool.
In 2 years' time, if everything goes perfectly and it goes the best it could go, where would you want to be?
I want us to be the authority, at least here in Israel, about these subjects. So when they talk about intimacy and technology, or the effect of technology on our relationships, they will come to us.
Right.
I also wanted to be accepted more as a legitimate, good thing. Like when you think about Tom, Tikkun Olam Meikaton.
Yeah.
So it's very clear that it's an important thing, that it should happen, because they help people with disabilities using technology.
Right.
So I want people to understand, I hope that people will understand that Intimake is also just a tool to make people's life better and make our life better. And not see it as a weird, eccentric group.
Right. Interesting. And so it's interesting. The next, I think I may work more design sprint questions into these interviews, because I really want to ask the next one, which is, okay, so now we have this 2-year goal. What are 3 things that could stop us from getting there?
That could stop us?
Yeah, if you put the pessimistic hat now on.
Okay, so we need to stop talking about vibrators.
Okay.
I feel that the more we're talking about actual like sexuality is taking us away from this goal, because people are so scared of this subject, but people don't want to be affiliated with the subject. So as long as we continue to talk about these things,
Right.
We'll not be considered. It's like people call me now to talk about sex robots.
Right.
And I can talk about sex robots, but I don't want to talk about it because it's the yellow things.
Right. That's the cheap attention grabbing thing, but not the most interesting.
Exactly. So this is one thing. Another thing that could prevent us is if we don't have enough energy.
Right.
We're all people that are doing it on their spare time as like a hobby.
Yeah.
And we do it and we don't get money for it, and we just do it because we love it and we think that it's important.
Right.
So if I will stop, it will be much harder. What else? Do you have an idea?
I would say, I think it's related to the first point you made, but like if we don't find the language to lure people into these conversations and into this form of thinking that meets people where they are, as opposed to where we wish we come in as these enlightened sexual teachers, then we know that it's better to have less shame about it, and then we know that it's better to have less prejudices, but it's also, I mean, that's where people are. And so what can we offer them that's just one step out of their comfort zone, is not 10.
Yeah, but I know what we need to do.
Okay.
But I don't want to prevent the people in my group talking about sexuality. So that's kind of it's very difficult. I know we should talk about how technology affects our lives, what we can do to make our relationship better, just how to get people closer, using apps, using sites, things like that. That will be really accepted well. People will love it. We will get money, everything.
Okay.
But when we try to take the sexuality part and we'll talk about that using technology, then it becomes weird.
Oh my God. I'm going to sketch something because I just had an idea. So you know how every cult is built around concentric centers. Mm-hmm. So just think about Scientology, right? Or anything. Like when you come in from the outside.
So that's our alien in the...
Yeah, exactly. You don't find out about Xenu until you're like level 50.
So level 50 is like sex robots. But until then...
Or like all the vibrators, like whatever. Like basically, you can have tiers. Actually, I mean, I'm kind of joking about the cult thing, but you can have tiers where there's the public group, which is much more...
which is
broad
exactly
audience.
What we're doing. Like the public group is not working right now because Dana needs to do it.
Right.
But the English, like the public group, the open group, the English one is supposed to be not about sex at all.
Right.
And then only when you get into the community, then it's open to everything.
Right. And so I'm wondering if there could be... Because I noticed you do have moderation on. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering even if maybe this group of 400 people could be toned down a little bit more. And then you almost create a separate group for only people who are just very...
But then we'll have 3 groups.
No, I mean, but it's all the same group. It's all the same group. It's just different levels. It's almost like you've graduated to the inner circle.
I think that when our first group in the center will actually work, then it will be what you say.
Right. And if we're looking at the cult model, if you stand in the center And the closer people are to you, the more powerful they have. And then your inner circle gets like special benefits, like they can sleep with everyone out of the outer circle.
Sure. This is what we do. Not
no.
People don't think that we do this, please.
Of course not. No, that's just my observation about how cults work.
Yeah.
No, I feel like there is something to it. Like in meditation, people lie to you. Like your teachers lie to you all the time.
Really?
Yeah, or not all teachers, right? But you have this whole world of meditation teachers out there talking about the benefits of relaxation and mindfulness and all that stuff. But the real purpose of meditation is to destroy your ego. And you find out about these effects later, right? As you start going on and you start having all these weird experiences and you ask questions about them, and they'll be like, you do kind of, we didn't want to tell you, but you kind of find out that the self is an illusion. And it's great for you to realize that. But like, if we just came out and said it right up front, maybe you wouldn't be that interested in meditation because it's a lot scarier.
Yeah.
So I definitely think, but some teachers just, like Sam Harris is my favorite. He's like, the purpose of this course is to destroy your ego. Step one. But not everybody does it, right? It's because it's much more explicit.
Yeah.
So you have to find a balance, I guess. I mean, there could be some things that are more kind of honest and more things that are just like, they're still honest, but like you focus on things that don't scare people away. So Maya, you mentioned sex tech. Do you have a definition for me?
Yeah. So I use the definition of Sandy Gallup. She's a entrepreneur and the founder of Make Love Not Porn website. Okay. So she says that sex tech is any form of technology or tech venture that enhances, innovates, and disrupts in any area of human sexuality and sexual experience. And so I kind of stole this definition and changed it, and now it also means inti-tech.
Okay.
But just change all the sexuality words into intimacy. And then we can use it for our means also.
Yeah. No, I think that's awesome because I think intimacy needs to be disrupted. And have you done the eye contact experiment?
No.
There was I think there's an annual day where they do this, but like it's a couple years ago, where people just gathered in the central square and paired up with strangers and stare at each other's eyes for like, I think it was like 5 minutes.
Wow.
It was a very intense experience. I went there. I arrived late as usual, so I think I only had like 2 or 3 sessions. And one of the girls actually started tearing up and crying in the middle of it. And I talked to her about it, and apparently she's just very lonely and kind of locked in her house all day, and like, doesn't have anyone to look at in the eyes, right? And it was kind of a surprise to me also because she was just a very attractive lady, but she's apparently shut in her house.
Yeah, it doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
It's actually what the artist is present, Marina Abramovic work is all about. This is what she does. She just looks at people's inside, look in each other's eyes for a couple of minutes. Yeah. And people are, getting very emotional about it, crying, feeling very deep feelings towards her once they look inside of her eyes. So it's the most basic.
It's a basic thing, but it's so rare to actually look at someone. I definitely had the experience. Like sometimes, I think ever since I started meditating, I started looking more into people's eyes, and sometimes they have a really strong reaction. Yeah, but usually good. Like I actually started getting free stuff.
Just from looking in people's eyes.
Yeah, and like food places and stuff. Like
wow.
I would get an extra helping and stuff just because I look at someone and I smile and I look them in the eye. And I think they maybe don't have that a lot in their jobs. People ignore them. So I got
They got the recognition out of it.
Yeah, exactly. And I got free food. And
You both got something valuable.
Exactly. And even though I think actually just looking into someone's eyes is valuable. Did you hear about the New York Times? The New York Times had an article about the 36 questions that lead to love.
Yeah.
And then it came with 4 minutes of staring into each other's eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever done that with anyone?
I haven't, but I kind of feel that every time I was chatting with someone, I did it anyway.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of feel that our lives are very similar to a Sims game, where if you will chat to someone long enough, you'll feel closer to them anyway.
Yeah.
As long as it's not someone very, very different from you or something unusual,
right,
then it will happen anyway.
Yeah.
If you will spend time together, if you will actually be very open. This is what I was doing during my military service when I had to, stand up for 6 hours with someone guarding whatever,
right,
nothing. We would talk.
Right.
And I would just ask them a lot of questions. And in the end, we will have some kind of relationship.
Right.
It might have been something that just ended after the 6 hours, but we got to know each other pretty well.
Yeah.
So
that's so interesting. So where should people go to find out more about you?
So they can go on Facebook and join Intimake if they are English speakers, and if not, they can just follow our public group.
Cool.
And they can go on my website. It's mayamagnat.com.
Okay.
Very simple. And check out the things that I do. It has my art projects on it and also my talks. And I kind of say what I'm up to next. And also a bit about Intimake. And if they're Israelis, they can come to our next show.
Cool.
June.
Next show is in June?
Yeah.
Nice. What is that going to be about?
It's I Don't Want to See This.
Okay.
We're doing it again.
Cool. Awesome.
All right. That's it for today. If you enjoyed the podcast and would like to support it, please consider writing a 5-star review in Apple's podcast app or wherever you're listening. It helps many more people discover the podcast and also makes us feel good. Current support for the podcast comes from my own design company, Remake Labs. We run design sprints all over the world, and our goal is to improve outcomes, whether in business or various organizations, through repeated and rapid design interventions. Now, until next time, be well, everyone. See you next week on Remake.